All right, all right. We get started here. Some water. So a lot of you, come to Empowered Man in a really vulnerable place. And what I mean by that is that you are in pain. You're going through separation, divorce. You're trying to figure out what is up, what is down, what is left, what is right. And I remember being in that place many times in my last marriage. My ex-wife had left me a total of three times, and we reconciled all three times. And then the fourth was me choosing to walk away after catching her in more infidelity. Um, I want to talk about like how to deal with that pain because it's so easy to like find yourself distracting yourself from pain. Most guys really don't have a grid for pain. When it comes to how to deal with it, we like to compartmentalize it. We like to bottle it up. I remember one of the times specifically when I really, really thought it was over between us, and I was just a mess. I would come to work every day, and I'd be in a team meeting, and I'd be talking, and all of a sudden my voice would start to crack, and my heart, I was having anxiety and panic attacks, and I would start almost crying in the middle of the meeting. Nobody asked, people knew, thankfully I worked at a really good company and they understood where I was at. And I would spend, half my day in the office with the door shut, with music playing, and I'd have to turn around. I had a glass door, and I'd have to turn around and just like cry for a few minutes. And then when it was overwhelming too much, I would go outside and I would just go around the corner of the building and I'd like pray, I'd shout, I'd cry, I'd just do whatever because I had so much emotion, I had so much pain. And a lot of the pain and a lot of the emotion really came back to my inability to, number one, regulate my emotions, but also number two, it was what I was feeding myself with. Because, throughout all the times that my ex-wife left me, infidelity was always sort of the core reason, if you will. Um, I always think beyond that. At the end of the day, marriages break down not because of infidelity. That's just sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. At the end of the day, marriages break down because of either lack of value compatibility or some emotional connection somewhere down the line. Um, there was an emotional disconnect for both of us. There was mental health issues on some of this. There was narcissism. There was all kinds of things. But I was still feeling all this pain. I was still going through all this stuff, and it was like all I kept doing was feeding myself with bullshit. I fed myself with what is she doing? What is she up to? And trying to control and trying to manipulate. I'd reach out to her friends. Hey, have you heard from her? Hey, do you know what's going on? Hey, has she told you anything? Hey, is she seeing anybody? And just trying to find out all of this information because I was almost like a glutton for punishment, hacking into her email, um, following her GPS, all the things that a lot of guys do because I was in so much pain and all I could do was try to control the uncontrollable. It was kind of like, you see those guys that try to, do the horse bucking, if you will, where they get on the back of that horse and the horse is doing the bucking or whatever, and it's trying to, and you're just trying to hold on. Like that's literally what I felt like. I was just trying to hold on to this horse that kept trying to kick me off, just trying to kick me off. And the harder I tried, the harder it was to stay on because her strength or just the strength of the situation, I just couldn't hold on. And I kept finding myself in this place of pain and disruption and confusion. And my kids were going to the wayside. I wasn't eating at all. I think I lost like 30 or 40 pounds in a matter of like 6 weeks or something. And it was horrible because I didn't know what to do with the pain. And so today's message really is about dealing with this pain, but from a place of healing. Um, if I knew now what if I knew then what I know now, I know that I would make a lot of different decisions. For one, number one, I would have probably ended my marriage probably 10 years before I did. There was too many red flags, too many things that were not okay that I allowed myself to get walked all over, allowed boundaries to get misplaced, etc., or to be broken, and I would have changed things. But looking forward here as a more healed man, I wouldn't say I'm fully healed because I don't count myself fully healed to the day I die. As a more healed man today than I was 6 years ago, 10 years ago, when, all this stuff was happening, I look back and I think through like, what were the things that had to happen for me to get from there to here? Because a lot of you are in that place. You're like, well, how do I get to this level of empowerment? How do I get to this place? And that's kind of what I want to walk through this journey with you, and talking about healing. The thing is healing, and somebody asked me this yesterday in the Thrive program. We were talking about healing and what does healing actually mean. And the easiest way I can summarize healing is wholeness. Healing is wholeness. What that means is that when you are healed, you've become whole. Now, I think there's levels of wholeness. I think there's levels of wholeness in everything, right? Just, healing is levels of it. There's no like, okay, I'm done until I die. And the reason I say that is because life is growth. Life is trauma. Life is healing. Life is continuously evolving, and it's never going to stay the same. It's never going to be static. You could have a great life today, and tomorrow everything is disrupted. Everything changes. A child gets sick. A spouse, cheats on you. Whatever. Like, everything is constantly evolving and constantly changing. And what happens is, as men, is like, we want this perfect Saturday morning cartoon life, right? You all remember that? You wake up, you're 6, 7 years old. Saturday morning cartoons are on. This is dating myself. Saturday morning cartoons are on, and you just get there and you get your little bowl of cereal and you sit there and you eat, whatever it is, your Captain Crunch, for me, it was a Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and you just eat your cereal and you watch the cartoons. It could be the Smurfs. It could be, I don't even remember. Smurfs was probably my favorite one. I think Gummy Bears. You sit there and you watch those cartoons, and everything in life is great. Everything's good. It reminds me of this sort of video that went viral years ago. That this little kid, he's probably 12 or something, and he has kind of this funny lisp, and he's talking funny, and he's like, man, I got a new girlfriend. And he's like, I got the new Fortnite, and I got pizza rolls in the oven. Life is great. And as young men, as little boys, like, that's life is great. And we carry that into adulthood. We carry that into marriages where it's like, my wife is having sex with me. We got enough left over at the end of the day to go on vacation, and the kids are being good kids. Life is great. And it's the simplicity of that. And that is awesome. The problem is life doesn't always stay that way. And every time shit hits the fan, you say this to yourself, here we go again. Here we go again. Fuck. Here we go again. Because you've been there, you've experienced pain, you've experienced trauma. Maybe your Saturday mornings were full of cartoons because your parents were beating the shit out of each other in the back. Maybe your Saturday mornings were spent doing god awful things because you had an abusive father or somebody that molested you. Maybe your Saturday mornings weren't great, and so maybe you think of other times that were great for you, and your mind always wants to go there and keep that because that's sort of like heaven for you, and you keep trying to go for that because that is the one place in life when you think about your happy place, when you think about those times, that's when you felt most safe. That's when you felt most secure. And so in a marriage, we sort of create that environment, especially through sex and the vulnerability of it. And like when we ejaculate and we orgasm and we get hurt and we have this incredible moment and it feels like bliss. It feels like everything's connected and the world is great. And suddenly that's pulled from us. Suddenly we find her doing that with another man. Suddenly that has been taken from us. And now our identity as men have been shattered. Our life as a husband, life as a father, this ring. I remember when I took off my wedding ring for the first time and it was like, wow, will I ever wear one again? Like this meant so much to me. Even like right now, taking off my current wedding ring feels weird. I feel naked without it. I don't know who I am without it. It's because I lack identity. I lack healing. So guys, as we travel this road, as we travel through all of this, we have to understand that healing starts with telling the truth. Healing starts with telling the truth. That means that you have to come to a place in your life where if you want to heal from this separation and divorce, the truth that you have to tell is not about her and what she has done. The truth is about you. It doesn't mean you were a bad husband. It doesn't mean you were an asshole. But what it means is there are parts of you that must be healed. There are parts of you that don't need to be changed, but transformed. You don't have to focus on changing your behavior. We just have to focus on healing who you've become. That's what we do at Empowered Man. We tell every guy that, like, look, I'm not here to change you. I'm here to help you heal. Because if I can help you heal and I can help you become whole, the most healed you possibly can be, you will thrive in every dimension of life. I am a fucking testament to that. Whether it's as a producer, whether it's as a lover, whether it's as a father, whether it's as a leader, whether it's as a man, all five dimensions of the five-dimensional man. All of those areas I have struggled. I have struggled. I have struggled. I have been unhealed in many of those areas because of trauma, because of upbringing, because of whatever you want to fucking call it, DNA. Doesn't matter. The fact is I am now responsible. So you can't keep blaming your past on your parents, and you can't keep blaming your past for your current struggles. You can't blame what's going to happen in your future because of your past. Your future is up to you to be written not based on your past self, but where you currently are and how you move forward. And too many of you are just like wishing, and I've shared this before, talking about Lord of the Rings. We watched that again over the summer with the kids, and there was this part towards the end of Lord of the Rings in the third installment where Frodo and Samwise Gamgee are on this mountain, and they just got to take the one ring and put it in the fire, and they're like just exhausted, and they're there, and all they can think about is like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go back to the Shire? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just go back to that place? He's like, I would have married that girl, or I would have done this, and it would have been fantastic. It would have been amazing, because that's the way we think as men, is like during the hard shit, all we want to try to do is think about the good shit. We just want to try to ignore what is happening and think back to when it was good, when the good times were. It's like the airline or the Air Force pilots in World War II. They'd put their picture of their girlfriend or their wife in their cockpit is like, this is what I'm doing it for, and this is my why. Man, you need a bigger why than that. You need a bigger why. You're not just a husband. You're not just a father. You're a five-dimensional man, a man that needs to be healed across the board. But it starts with telling the truth about who you've been, telling the truth about who you really are. Because you're not the things that you've always done, even though that's what your circumstances would tell you, right? You have right now today what you deserve. If you look at your bank account, the amount of money that's in there right now, it's what you deserve based upon how you produced, based upon the level of problems you were solving. That is what's in your bank account. If you look at your weight and your gut and you look down and you look at what's happening here, and that is what you deserve based on what you fucking put in your body, based on your lack of doing exercise. I look at myself and I go, this is what I deserve right now. What I have right now is what I fucking deserve. I get what I have. That is telling the truth. Now, in telling the truth, it doesn't mean I have to stay there. It means I have the opportunity to acknowledge and accept the truth for what it is and go, I haven't been eating well. Maybe I should change my future activities, because what I see is a more fit, more in shape version of myself. And in order for me to become that, I have to level up my identity. I have to change the standards and the stories I tell myself in order to get there. But that starts with me telling the truth to myself. We are way too fucking good at lying to ourselves. Had a guy yesterday tell me that on the phone. He said, I'm a master manipulator. I am really good at bullshitting people left and right. And I'm like, dude, do you want to stop that? Are you done with that? And he's like, I want to. I think I do. It's like, no, it's not. I think. You have to choose. You have to choose. You have to make a choice. I am done being a manipulator. I am done gaslighting myself. I need to heal from this. See, a lot of you think, oh, I didn't really do anything wrong in my marriage because I was a good husband. I didn't cheat on my wife. I paid the bills. I took her on date nights, told her I loved her, had sex with her. So therefore, I checked all the boxes. I'm good. Yeah, but you couldn't emotionally connect with her. And every time she came to you for a problem, you didn't know what to do with it. So you'd shut down, or you'd fight her on, or you'd prove to her that you're right. You were really good at manipulating her. You were really good at going, oh, baby, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. You were really good at being mean to her and yelling at her and screaming at her. And then all of a sudden trying to make it all good. Why? Because you're a fucking liar. Man, we have to be fucking honest with ourselves. It starts with telling the truth. Number two, healing is a journey. Healing is a journey. It's a never-ending journey. If you think of healing as a feeling you get, then you're in the wrong. That is not healing. Healing is not a feeling. Healing is a journey. See, so many of us want to go, healing is A plus B equals C, because we think very logically, very linearly as a man. Like that's just the way we're wired. That's the way we're designed, if you will, right? We're designed to solve problems. A plus B equals C. We probably created math. And in doing that, I look at it as men created the basics of math, A plus B equals C, and women created like calculus, where it's like all these derivatives and all this crazy shit, trigonometry, because women's brains think abstractly. I think completely different than men. Whereas men, it's like we want a simple thing. We want a simple life. We want to just be able to come home and have our food, cooked for us, and we want to just provide, play with the kids, give the wife a little pickle tickle, and we're happy, we're content. But the wife, after 7, 10 years of that, she's not content anymore because you are living a small story, and she wants a bigger story. She wants you to actually like have an adventure that you're fucking living, and she's not the adventure. The kids aren't the adventure. You don't really have the hobbies anymore. You're not really changing the world anymore. You lost all vision and all desire to do anything. You're not giving back anymore. You're not doing those things that make you come alive, and you wonder why she doesn't want to be with you anymore. See, healing is a journey. It doesn't just start with a feeling. It doesn't end with a feeling. I can't tell you how many guys I've talked to, and they were interested in the work we do, and then for whatever reason they backed out because they didn't want to be vulnerable. They didn't want other men to ask them hard questions and to challenge them. And then 6 months later, maybe a text will happen or something like, "Oh, brother, everything's great. I'm good. Life is amazing," and they feel healed. But then if you really fast forward 6 months, another year, 2 years, they find themselves in another relationship, literally repeating the same patterns, having attracted the same type of woman into their life because they refused to fucking heal. They refused to heal because they went after feeling, not wholeness. Healing is not a feeling, it is wholeness. It is a journey. It is not something you just, "Oh, I'm good. I'm healed. Everything's great. Everything's fantastic." It's not a bone that was broken that is now 12 weeks later it's healed. It's good. There's nothing wrong. It is a journey because the heart is a constant evolving mechanism, an organism that is living and breathing. The mind, the will, the emotions, that is all a consistent, a continuous thing. Your arm is pretty much static. It's a bone that's meant to do one thing. It's here, and if it breaks, if your arm breaks, it gets back together. It's healed. It's good. That's done. That makes sense. But a heart isn't like that. Your heart can't be contained in a box. Your heart is so much bigger than that. And men don't live from their hearts anymore. They live from their mind. They're in their head all the time. This is why I tell people that are in high performance, I'm like, dude, you've got to get out of your head and into your body. Because if you live in your head constantly, you're overthinking, overanalyzing, you create more problems that are actually there than just allowing yourself to feel the pain, lean into the pain, stop running from the pain, and enjoy the healing process. Healing is a journey. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a feeling that you just get. Here's another thing is that healing comes from unexpected places. Healing comes from unexpected places. I was telling my guys this the other day. I started getting into sports cards again with my kids as they've gotten older and my boys and they're into sports and they started collecting football cards and baseball cards and all this stuff. And so, dad gets out all of his old baseball cards from the 80s and 90s and I'm thinking, man, maybe I've got some really cool shit in here. Well, it turns out a lot of that stuff was mass produced and not a lot of it has any value anymore. But as I started to, get with them and what they were doing, I actually started collecting again. I actually started getting into some of those things. I started buying some old packs of 89 Tops or 1991 Upper Deck or 1992 Top Stadium Club baseball. And like all of a sudden, I started to recover a love for baseball, which was so weird because when I grew up when I was a kid, from 5 years old to 15 years old, I played baseball all the time. And my dad loved baseball. My dad wanted me to be a professional baseball player. He wanted me to play for the New York Yankees. And let me tell you something, at 5'6", 100 and something, that wasn't going to happen. But when you're a kid growing up, man, you think anything's possible. And you're like, man, I'm going to be a professional baseball player. And I was good. I was good for 12, 10 years old. I was good. But when I got into high school, got cut 3 years in a row. And it was so embarrassing. And after the second year, literally right before the second year started in January, my dad passed away. He died when I was 15 years old. And, I did the whole thing. I'm going to make this team for you. I'm going to make it to the pros for you. I'm going to do all this for you. And I didn't have what it took to be the success that I needed to be. And really, I just didn't have the heart for it either. I realized through a lot of it, I was living vicariously, or he was living vicariously through me. And so a lot of my dreams were really his dreams, not my dreams. And I wanted to make him happy. And I had a very codependent, toxic relationship with my dad that came from that place. And so for many, many, many years, 30 almost, he's been dead almost 30 years this year. I basically put that stuff aside. I'd watch baseball here and there. I'd pay attention here and there. I'd watch a World Series game or something like that. But I had no interest in cards anymore. I had no interest in really that anymore. I got more into football, got more into basketball, but baseball was kind of like that off limits type thing. And as I started collecting again, I started like having this like, I don't know, it's just excitement, this sort of like joy from collecting cards again. It was just weird. It was a little side hustle kind of thing I was doing. And so, it's like doing it, it was like, man, this is cool. I'm kind of making some money flipping some cards. And then my wife said to me, well, why don't you just keep some? Why don't you just collect some? And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe. And so I started buying a couple of guys that I started paying attention to. And next thing you know, I'm buying these like rookies of these Yankee players. Yankees were my dad's team. And I'm like, man, why? What's the interest here? Like, why am I so invested in this? Why am I all of a sudden watching every game like they played it at 4 o'clock? I'm going to be watching that game tonight. And I'm like, why? Or 6 o'clock? Why am I so invested in this? And my wife pointed out to me, she's like, babe, this is part of your healing journey. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, like my dad's been dead for 30 years. Like, what do you mean? And she pointed out, like, look, I've lived in chaos for a long time. I was married to chaos. My DJ name was DJ Chaos. Like I thrived in chaos. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I've lived by the bootstraps, the seat of my pants for so long because I got so comfortable with chaos. I couldn't fully heal until I came to a place of consistent love, of consistency in my circumstance, of consistency in life. And that came with like hard, hard self sabotage, where I literally wanted to sabotage my relationship with my wife. I tried breaking up with her before we got married, like all these things because I couldn't handle the fact of consistency. It was almost like it's too good to be true that this isn't going to work. This person somehow is going to fuck me over. This person's going to leave me, abandon me, whatever. So I might as well do it now. This doesn't feel right. She feels too good for me. I can't do this. And it was like, I suddenly saw her fight for me. And as I tried to break up with her, she was like, I don't think this is fair. I don't think you're giving us a shot. And I leaned back into it. And man, it changed my fucking life. For the first time in my life, I found a person, which I don't look to her as God, but I found a person that could love me, I want to say unconditionally. And so what happened was, it was like there's a scripture that says, perfect love casts out all fear. And it was like in the consistency from my now wife, from my current wife, Amy, she brought in this love to me that began to cast out fear. It began to just get rid of fear. And in getting rid of fear, I could actually start to become myself again. Like the weight and the pressure and the stress and the striving started to melt. And even some of this is just over the last 6 months to a year. As it started to melt, things in my life, you've heard me mention this about my weight journey and losing weight and all this stuff, started to melt. My journey around food started to melt. My journey around love and sex started to melt. And where it was like starting to come to this place of healing and wholeness, because part of it was this relationship that came from consistency. And part of it was then just leaning into what became joyful for me again. And as a 45-year-old man, you go, that's childish stuff. That's whatever. I don't give a fuck who thinks what. What I know is I found joy in something. And in that joy, there is healing. In that joy, there is healing. So when you think about healing, I want you to realize that healing comes from unexpected places. It's not always going to come from the expected place. It's not going to come from a prayer all the time. It's not going to come from you crying all the time. It's not going to always come from all these things. Healing comes from joy. Healing comes from love. And when we experience that, that means that we have to be open to that. And that's my fourth and final point, is that healing comes from a place of vulnerability. You have to be able to be vulnerable with yourself before you can be vulnerable with other people. If you cannot be vulnerable with yourself, there is no way in hell you can be vulnerable with your wife. And if you can't be vulnerable with your wife, you will have zero marriage. I guarantee you, many of you can think back and think through your marriage and think about how many times your wife would ask you how you felt, would ask you your opinion on something, would want you to open up about something, or she would share her thoughts and her feelings about something in the hopes that you would open up, but you just couldn't do it. You just couldn't get there. And so she would shame you or you would shame you, and that would make you shut down. And in that shutting down, you just continue this perpetual shame cycle of disconnection. The feeling of rejection. Well then, fine. Fuck you. I'm going to take my ball and go somewhere else. I'm going to go jerk off now, or I'm going to go drink beer now, or I'm going to go hang out with my friends now, or whatever, because you feel all this shame from your lack of ability to communicate and to articulate. And this is the saddest fucking thing to me, because as men, we're all here for the same thing, and that is to live life. Every man on this call, every man that I talk to, every man out there in the world, all want the same thing. We just want a good life. We want a life full of joy, full of peace, full of respect, full of honor. That's what we want. That's what we crave. That's what we desire. And so we do all the things we know to do and within our power to go get that. And many times, what does it do? It backfires. It backfires. Why? Because we're not doing it from the right place. We do it from our childish lens. We do it from our feeling sorry for us, our victim lens. And we want to manipulate people because we don't know how to actually articulate our true feelings. We don't know how to just be honest and say, what I need is this from you. And if I can get this from you, this would help me feel secure in our relationship. If you're able to provide this level of trust, then it would help me trust you more. I want to be open with you in the bedroom. I want to talk about the things that I want to do. I want to be open about these things. And where she's not open, you get to communicate through that, because maybe she has sexual trauma. Maybe she has things that she's been through and that you're trying to violate her with. Maybe your porn stuff, you're trying to bring it into the bedroom. Maybe she doesn't feel comfortable with that because she was violated as a child. Like, if you don't ask these questions, if you're not open to that shit, you will continue to reintroduce trauma to your wife because you haven't been fucking healed yourself. Guys, it's not about being a quote unquote good man who provides, who doesn't cheat on his wife. Like, fuck you and your checked boxes. Fuck you and your checked boxes. That is not what makes you a good man. What makes you a good man is, well, shit, I don't even believe in good men. What I believe in is men who are empowered enough to recognize their faults, to be vulnerable enough to go, man, I want to grow. I want to continue to become the greatest, most empowered man I can be. I'm not comparing myself to Mark. I'm not comparing myself to Richard or Brian or the other Brian or Josh or Justin. I'm not comparing myself to any of these guys. I just want to be the most empowered version of me possible. That means I'm going to start with telling the truth about my shit. That means I'm going to start with not lying about how I feel. That means with me starting to be vulnerable about stuff. That means me starting to go after healing, to not just be passive when it comes to this. That means being accountable to people, to men specifically, not just women. That means not going after the bottle anymore or porn anymore, whatever the things are that keep me from being open and honest with people. Because that shame is blocking you. And I'm telling you, there's so much fucking more for most of you. There is so much more if you would put that shit away and start to lean into who you can be. It's not about your bad behaviors. It's about the gold inside of you. Empowered man, that is what we fucking do here. We pull the gold outside of men. Most guys don't want anything to do with coaching. They want advice. They want someone to just tell them what to do. Most of you will show up on these things for free because you don't want to invest in yourself. That's fine. That's why I fucking do it. Because I know over time, some of you, it's going to finally break down and finally click in your head. And you're going to go, oh my God, I need to fucking work with these guys. I show up every week, week in, week out, no complaints. I don't give a fuck. You can be on this thing for 6 years. You can come for free. I don't give a fuck. But you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. At the end of the day, you want the real shit. You want the hard shit. You want to become the man that you want to become. It's going to take fucking work. It's kind of like this. You can watch Tom Brady all day from the football field throw the football. You can watch that motherfucker throw just lasers. You can watch him on Sunday when he used to play at the Patriots and go, man, that guy's a really good quarterback. And you can go out in your backyard. You can mimic Tom Brady all fucking day. You can try to be like Tom all you want and be like, I'm someday going to be like Tom Brady. But until you get in his presence, until you let Tom Brady actually look at your form and show you what you've been doing wrong and show you the areas of improvement, show you what you are doing well, and give you confidence and keep you accountable to holding your shoulder in the right place and to releasing from this point. Until you have that, all you have is somebody you observe from the outside. All you have is somebody that you're not fully intimate with because you don't have the true power of proximity. There is power in proximity. I learned that 6, 7 years ago from one of the first coaches I ever hired. And he talked about that idea. And I was like, man, I'd never heard that before. But if you look at true mentorship, if you look at how the transference of things goes, it comes from being under influence of somebody else. If you look at your job, you have a boss that influences you. If you have a good boss, you become more like that boss. You show up to work like that boss. You act like that boss. You treat employees like that boss or that manager. Why? Because there's power in proximity. Before you met that boss, maybe you had a certain way of doing things, but he showed you a new way of doing things. And in doing so, you have that connection because you are vulnerable to it, because you receive from it. And that's what's next for some of you. For some of you, it's time to fucking make a move. For some of you, it's time to get off the sidelines. And for some of you, you're going to sit for 5 years, and that's fine. I'll keep showing up. I'll keep seeing your faces. I'll keep seeing you come here. I've talked to many of you already, and that's fine. You're not ready. Cool. I don't want you to come in until you're ready. But for those of you that are like, you know what, I'm ready to at least try something, I think you should try my 5-day challenge first. I think you should at least try that. I'll drop a link here for you. We'll put it in there. 5 days. It's like $27. It's the fucking cheapest thing I've got. It's easy for you to get in, watch content, do the exercises. Not just about content. It's do the exercises. I literally had one guy tell me exercise one, they would have paid thousands of dollars for because it's radically changed how they approach their life, professionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, because of exercise one. I'm not saying it to brag. I don't even like talking about my shit half the time. It's actually hard for me sometimes to promote myself. But I believe so much in the work we do. I'd be doing a disservice to you if I don't talk about it. If I don't tell you that we fucking change lives. If I don't tell you that I am so passionate about this, this is not a business or a job or a thing for me. This is a life. This is a fucking calling. I will never sell this business. I plan to pass this to my sons, hopefully. They grow into empowered men. They've got to earn that right, obviously. But this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what I teach my kids. This is the life I fucking live. As you can tell, I'm not the perfect guru. I'm not the guy that stands up here and says, look, have my life, be me, do me, all this shit. Look at my shiny cars and look at all this stuff and you could be me. That is not me. I will never be that guy because I want you to be you. I want you to heal from your shit. I want you to lead other men. I want you to come and be a part of what we're doing and lead men in our group. I want you to do your thing. Because at the end of the day, that's what the world needs. You don't need a bunch of clones of Mark. Fuck that. Hell no. We need clones. We need you to reproduce yourself into other people. But that's only going to come when you receive the seed and you go and do it. So I definitely recommend, challenge you. If you haven't done anything with me yet, start with the 5-day challenge. If you're past that, you've done the challenge, or you're just like, you know what? I need coaching. I need mentorship. I'm going to drop my link. Hopefully Archie can drop it here. Hopefully he has. If he hasn't, let me. Yep. Okay. Drop my link to get on a call with me. It'll be with me. I don't have anybody else right now working for me. It's me. If you want to talk to me, I don't want you to waste my time though. I'm not here to talk about how great your life is or how much you've learned from me. I appreciate that. You can always drop me a message in Facebook, but I want to talk to you about what you need to grow to become the most empowered version of yourself. That's what we're going to talk about. If at the end I think what we do helps you, I will tell you. If I don't, I will tell you probably in the first 10 or 15 minutes, like, dude, you're not ready for this because this is an intense commitment. This is an experience. This is a financial commitment as well. At the end of the day, it is a business. There are things that we have to do in order to make ends meet, and that is a part of it. But I love that part of it. I used to shy away from that. I love that part of it because that means that you've got to invest and I've got to invest. You're investing into me financially and I'm investing into you emotionally, spiritually, physically. I mean, shit, the list goes on in terms of the things that we do for our clients. Because there's going to come a time where we'll meet face to face, eye to eye. We'll look each other in the eyes because you'll be at one of my events in Phoenix or in San Diego or Miami or wherever I do the events all over the country. And we'll look each other eye to eye and go, man, dude, I remember that top conversation you gave. I remember that Facebook Live I was on. And I just said, you know what, fuck it. I've got to be a part of this. I've got to be that guy who doesn't just do lip service, but fucking becomes a man of action, who heals from all his shit, who heals from all the things, who no longer is terrified of his wife, who's no longer controlled by his wife, and is the leader in his life that he needs to be, that his children can follow. If that's you, I'm going to drop a link here to my calendar so you can book a call with me. There's an application I think you got to do first, but do the application and we'll chat. Don't let finances get in the way. Trust me, I've been able to help a ton of men who didn't have cash flow or didn't have a ton of ability be able to break some things up and do it in a better way for them. That's all I've got for you guys. Healing is a journey. Healing is vulnerability. Healing is no longer lying to yourself. Let's go get it. Let's have a great week. See you.